MadWorld.
MadWorld is an incredibly unique beat-up game released in 2008, 2009 for the Nintendo Wii and stands out for blood.
So much blood.
While during the game's conceptual phase, there wasn't much that was really set in stone, one thing that really stood out among all of the other things that everybody brought to the table was how they wanted this to be, quote, a game focused on engaging and incredibly violent combative gameplay. The goal was to design the game less for the Eastern market and more for the West. While I couldn't find a reason why this specific choice was made, it's a pretty safe bet that this was just the simplest method of achieving their vision of something as violent as they wanted MadWorld to be.
Oh, so you like it dirty.
One thing I found interesting was how Inaba would play notoriously violent video games, specifically so he could avoid any issues that might arise if his game was perceived as too aggressive or too violent for even the Western market. One of these games being Manhunt 2. Given they wanted the game to be as graphic as it is, they wanted to find a balance, specifically in the artistic style, so the violence didn't seem as violent?
That checks out.
While the duo admits that they toyed with a lot of different artistic styles from very cartoonish to very realistic, it is evident the role Sin City would play in inspiring this game's visual style. I'll be honest, this is a game that I'm actually pretty excited to talk about, despite it taking me so long to get this video out, because growing up I had a subscription to Nintendo Power, and this was one that I saw fairly frequently pop up in and out of pages, at least to my memory, and I never truly got a chance to try the game when I was a kid, so it's fun to be able to play it now. That being said, is it worth your time playing? And is it worth your time collecting? Let's go find out.
How long is this going to take?
MadWorld is a pretty run-of-the-mill hack and slash beat-em-up game with the added perk of specifically what makes it unique. That being its overall black and white aesthetic, along with the conscious choice to make the only color visible during gameplay red for blood. While you could argue that it is fairly gimmicky and doesn't add too much realistically, it is a creative take on violence in video games and is a unique way to portray. It is an incredibly unique way to portray such brutal violence without feeling like it ever crosses a line. While the artistic style and the choice to only display the color red doesn't do much outside of that initial shock, it's fun. I'm gonna be honest. It is actually quite fun visually to experience. Getting into the actual gameplay, the majority, if not the entire game, takes place on a fictional island known as Jefferson Island. It's divided into several levels that play out on specific parts of the island, which you will unlock as you play. Each level gives a bit of a sandbox feel, but does offer quite a bit of exploration, encouraging you to do a little bit more than just simply walk from point A to point B or going from objective to objective to objective. While levels aren't expansive by any means, they do offer enough to make it more than not at all entertaining to explore, especially when most of the combat does rely on obtaining items that you will pick up around the map. As for how you beat the levels, it's relatively simple. Kill stuff, get points. Kill stuff, get points.
Write that down.
And then if you're really looking to push it just a little bit, kill some more stuff, which on paper does feel a bit repetitive. There is enough to the combat system to help prevent you from feeling that as much as possible. And when it comes to fighting enemies, there are specific combos that will net you bonus points if you achieve them in a specific order or do specific things to enemies with a variation of weapons made available to you as you play. While the maps do their absolute best to stay as fresh and unique as possible, once you get a feeling for the combat, it does become fairly evident the best possible combinations and moves you can use to get the most amount of points the fastest. That does depend entirely on your playstyle. This game does favor a bit more of a slow, casual approach rather than that run and gun style that encourages faster combat, more chaotic gameplay that the game does sometimes feel like it wants you to do. One thing that I actually enjoy specifically about how the game feels, the entire game is treated like a game show, especially considering the crazy amount of violence. It's enjoyably funny that it takes itself not at all serious.
So, what's the deal here again? Same as always. Jack's gotta kill every sucker he sees so he can make enough bank to beat on the boss. Then he can also find hidden shit on the side when he's got a little time to kill, instead of having little enemies to kill you mean. Exactly.
What I really love about this especially, it almost encourages you to not care about the story at all, but it does give you enough of a story to enjoy if you did want to. If you were looking to blast through this game super quick, you could just spam through the cutscenes, play a level out, move on to the next like it's Super Mario fucking 513, blood will shed. I don't know. Anyway.
How about that camera?
One thing that I felt impacted my experience negatively is the camera system. Of course, achieving a perfect camera is still a tedious task, even by today's standards. I just feel that while it's not the worst thing in the world, it definitely could be better. Now, if this were an alternate timeline and the camera was perfect, I could say that this is a near solid experience for the Nintendo Wii, but it definitely could have used a little bit of extra TLC before they pushed it on the store shelves. Now, while I do praise this game quite a bit, camera aside, I do have to pee in the suit a little bit. I'm gonna be honest, it just feels like a reskin of No More Heroes. And that's not a bad thing. It just sucks that they position this game to be as original as did, when in reality, if you were to boil it down, the games play the exact same way. You fight enemies to get points, to get yourself to the final level, and while how you weave your way to the final boss is a little bit different and unique, because both games don't really take themselves too seriously, it becomes pretty easy to just say, oh, this is No More Heroes in a different artistic style. While it's not a bad thing at all, I just feel it takes away from the merit of originality that they were claiming, especially back when they were showcasing early concepts.
What is it worth?
When it comes to collectability, I'm gonna be honest with you, I won't fish for biscuits. Absolutely pick up this game. It is well worth the current asking price of $15 to $20 based on your area and your currency, especially because it offers an incredibly entertaining gameplay loop that does encourage more than one playthrough. It has an incredibly unique and appealing visual art style, and it has a cool disc. See, especially if you're in the market for something that is going to give you the best bang for buck, MadWorld is definitely something that you should look into. All said and done, this is a solid addition to your collection. Anyway, my Wii U's now on, so I'm gonna go play MadWorld. See yourself out.